This is the Strongback USA show, and I'm your host, Jason Mariner. Today is December 7th, 2021. Yesterday, the 6th, started out as a very optimistic and hopeful day as hundreds of thousands of protesters descended upon Washington, D.C. in dispute of the results of the last presidential election and in show of support of our President Donald J. Trump. It quickly turned deadly and violent when we had a bunch of morons basically get together, dressed in paramilitary gear, and they probably convinced a lot of other people that were very emotional and passionate about the cause, that they were some sort of leader, constitutionalist patriot, and that those people should follow them into the Capitol building because they had a plan on how to take it back. And what they did was absolutely disgusting. Had I been there, I would have been one of the people standing in between them and that building. I know I would have gotten my rear end handed to me. I would have gotten totally overrun, maybe even killed. But I guarantee a few of them would have needed dentists, because I would have been standing in between people that want to interrupt constitutional law and prevent constitutional adherence from taking place. And that's what a true patriot does. A true patriot fights and dies for the Constitution and fights and dies for freedom. That's not what was happening yesterday. You had a bunch of thugs storm a building, break windows, destroy it, all for the chance to get a photo with their feet up on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Do you really think she cares that you were in her office? By the way, everything that you destroyed has now been replaced and fixed at your expense, the taxpayer. Which brings me to my next topic. We've got to talk about a solution to this problem because it's clearly not getting better. That solution's very controversial. I might be the first one to say it on air because all the other anchors are scared about their careers in media. I don't worry about mine because really I don't have one, and I don't care if it continues. What I care about is this country and its survival, or at least the survival of a country with the U.S. Constitution at its core. So we need to talk about secession. It's a constitutional right of every American that when they feel the government has become abusive to the people, that we either overthrow the government and install a new one, or we secede and form our own. I think secession is the most reasonable direction to go at this point. It seems that the division is so deep and wide that we can't bridge the gap any longer. It doesn't seem like we can peacefully coexist with people with conflicting political beliefs. So, the only logical thing to do is secede. They go their separate ways, we go ours. No one needs to die, no blood needs to be shed. That's a real discussion that should be had. It's a real possibility. That could actually happen if done the right way, but the right way is not what you saw yesterday. The right way is not to act like a bunch of fools and vandals storming a building, stealing things. And we also recognize that the left and the right was involved in that. There's people saying, oh no, it couldn't have been Trump supporters. It was all staged by Antifa. Give me a damn break. We saw the photos of the known Antifa members in there, just like we saw the photos of the known extreme right-wingers in there. Thanks for taking the photos, by the way, because you'll save the taxpayers money on your trial. There'll be shorter trials and longer sentences. Believe me, you'll be made an example out of, and you'll go to prison for a very long time. They'll probably make sure you get out, and by the time you do, you'll be so old you can't cause any trouble. But I think that's a good thing because they need to make an example out of you. This is unacceptable. We can't have behavior like this. We can't have mob rule on American soil. Did you really think that you were going to storm into that building and either overthrow the U.S. government or force our politicians into not certifying or certifying the results? Did you think you were going to intimidate them into doing that? Get out of town. Not happening. What you did was you pissed them off and you interrupted constitutional law. What you did was you caused them to flee in fear and then reconvene. And when they did, a lot of the politicians that said that they would not certify the results of the Electoral College came back and said, you know what? We're so pissed off, if for no other reason other than to spite the people that destroyed this building, we're not going to side with President Trump. We are going to certify these results. So hats off to you for ruining any chance we had of keeping Donald Trump in the office and out of power the extreme communist radical left. Because guess what? Now we're walking into a situation where they will have unfettered power that goes without checks and balances over your life and mine, over the futures of our children. They will be able to enact any policy they see fit without anybody standing in their way. They'll be able to continue to strip you of your liberties and rights as Americans until you turn around one day and you say, my goodness, what has happened? I'm not a free person. That's why we need to start talking about things like secession. It's a constitutional obligation every American has. Don't be the person that thinks that you can't affect this change. Get behind the movement. First thing you can do is hit the subscribe button and then share it. Copy the link. Send it to your friends. But we need to start talking about our options. And our options are slim. Our options are to be ruled by a communist regime that's going to force their will upon us and take away our rights. And then our other option is to either secede or overthrow the government entirely. That usually ends up in bloodshed, which is what we don't want. But I do think there's a clear and reasonable path towards just taking the Mason-Dixon line, extending it to Los Angeles. They have their half, we have ours. We go our separate ways peacefully. No more of the nonsense. We take our Constitution with us. You guys do whatever you want. We don't care anymore. We form our own new sovereign nation. This is not crazy talk. This was outlined for us by our founding fathers. Our hearts go out to all the families that are grieving over the loss of family members and friends right now due to the unnecessary violence that took place yesterday. To all those who incited what happened yesterday, their blood is on your hands, and the United States judicial system will have its way with you. And I guarantee you're not going to like how it goes. You're not going to get any presidential pardons. You're not going to be excused for what you've done. You're going to be made an example out of and put away for a long time, and the world will be a safer place without you. You're not a Republican. You're not a patriot. Patriots, again, fight and die for the Constitution. They don't stand in the way when it's being processed. They don't stand in the way of the Constitution being carried out. What a ridiculous idea that was to storm that building. What a damn shame. America, we need to get on board with this. We need to figure out what the next steps are, because I do know that there's 74 million of us, well, we call it 75 now, that simply will not be subject to deep blue, unfettered, socialist and communist agendas that go without checks and balances, because now we don't have control of any branch of government. There needs to be change, and it needs to happen fast. Our condolences go out to the families that are grieving over their lost loved ones. May God watch over their souls and guide them into the kingdom of heaven. And may God watch over you and your families until the next time we talk. My name is Jason Mariner. I'm the host of the Strongback USA show here on the Real Republican News Network. Hit the like and share button, get the word out. Let's get this job done, and let's make sure our children can grow up in a place that's free. Be well, everyone.